Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Some people enter your life quietly and somehow end up rewriting the entire script without touching a single page. Sigma females are exactly that kind of plot twist. They don't crash into your world with fireworks or dramatic entrances. No. They walk in like someone checking the weather, minding their own business, and suddenly everyone starts acting differently without realizing why. It's like psychological gravity. You don't see it, but everything shifts around them. And here's the wild part. A study from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people are most influenced not by dominant personalities, but by those who operate outside traditional social hierarchies. Translation? The quiet outliers, like Sigma females, unintentionally alter group dynamics more than loud leaders ever could. That's why meeting a Sigma female feels less like meeting a person, and more like discovering a glitch in your own behavioral programming. One moment you think you understand how people operate, the next you're questioning your life choices because she simply raised one eyebrow. She doesn't chase attention. She doesn't demand respect. She just exists, and suddenly everyone else is adjusting, recalibrating, and low-key panicking because they can't figure out why they care so much. And yes, the funniest part, she never planned any of this. While people are busy overthinking her silence, she's probably deciding which snack to eat later. So let's break it down. Here are the brutally honest, extraordinary reasons why Sigma females become the plot twist in people's lives without ever trying to be. Number 1. She doesn't evolve to impress. She evolves to outgrow. Sigma females are not in the business of showing off growth or wearing it like a badge for applause. Every change, every leap in who they are, is not meant to attract attention or win approval. Their evolution is silent but undeniable. While most people evolve to fit in, to stay relevant, or to impress others, a Sigma female's growth has nothing to do with anyone else. It has everything to do with herself. She changes because staying the same would feel dishonest. She changes because her life demands it, because she sees the gaps in her own understanding, and because she refuses to be trapped by her own past limitations. Her evolution has a subtle power. It forces people around her to confront stagnation in themselves. Friends, lovers, colleagues, they can either rise with her or be left behind. And unlike others who grow carefully to keep people comfortable, she grows unapologetically, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. This is why she is a plot twist. Her evolution is a disruption. It doesn't ask for permission, and it doesn't seek validation. Her growth highlights how much of human life is spent clinging to familiar versions of ourselves instead of pursuing who we could truly become. Because she doesn't evolve to impress, she can evolve at her own pace, on her own terms. She follows curiosity, principles, and self-respect, not trends or social pressures. If someone expects her to remain predictable, they will be shocked to see her continuously reshaping herself, setting new standards of thinking, behavior, and self-possession. People around her start to feel the subtle tension of comparing their own slow, fearful growth to her unstoppable, effortless evolution. Her transformation isn't loud, it isn't meant to be applauded, but the impact is undeniable. When a Sigma female grows, she doesn't just move forward, she redefines the landscape around her. Her evolution outpaces expectations and forces reflection. And the truth is, anyone who can't keep up is quietly removed from her life, not by confrontation or cruelty, but simply by the fact that she refuses to stay where she doesn't belong. This is the quiet revolution she carries, one evolution at a time, reshaping herself and everyone who encounters her without ever needing to explain why. Number 2. She doesn't destroy people. She destroys their illusions. Sigma females have a way of cutting through the pretenses people build around themselves but they do it without malice. She isn't out to break hearts or ruin lives, yet her presence exposes the cracks that people usually hide from the world, and often from themselves. What makes her a true plot twist is that she doesn't attack, she reveals. People think they know her, and more importantly, they think they understand themselves, but she has an uncanny ability to illuminate the illusions they've been living under. Suddenly, the confident colleague isn't so confident. The charming friend isn't as generous as they seemed. The perfect relationship isn't perfect at all, and all of it comes into focus quietly, naturally, without any dramatic confrontation. Her truth is relentless because it doesn't rely on judgment. She doesn't lecture. She doesn't manipulate. She simply exists in a way that shows reality in high definition. And people can't handle it. Some get defensive, some get angry, but deep down they know she is right. The illusions that comforted them are shattered by her calm, clear perception. That's what makes her unforgettable and sometimes feared. She forces reflection that most avoid, yet they can't escape. What's fascinating is that she doesn't make anyone dependent on her honesty. Her revelations are not tools to control people, they're mirrors of reality. People leave her presence changed because they can no longer pretend, and they have to face the consequences of their own self-deception. They may have believed they were clever, in control, or secure, but a Sigma female exposes the fragility of those beliefs, and it's impossible to go back to ignorance. Her ability to destroy illusions without destroying people makes her dangerous in the most subtle way. She reshapes perceptions and forces a reckoning, but she leaves individuals intact, capable of growth. This combination of quiet power and insight is why she is the plot twist people never saw coming. She doesn't seek to dominate or humiliate. She simply holds up the truth, and anyone who's not ready for it realizes far too late how profoundly she has altered their reality. Number 3, she leaves people forever changed, but never dependent Sigma. Females have an extraordinary way of impacting people's lives without ever creating reliance or emotional chains. When she enters someone's life, she doesn't offer comfort as a tool or manipulate attention for control. She interacts, teaches, and challenges on her own terms. People often leave her presence feeling as though they've been awakened, seeing themselves and their circumstances more clearly, yet they can't point to any one action she took to force it. Her influence is profound, but it's invisible in the way that leaves no debt owed. That's what makes her a plot twist. People are transformed without realizing she never intended to change them. She does not stay because she is needed, and she does not leave because she is done. She stays when the connection adds depth to her life, and she leaves when it no longer serves authenticity. This creates an odd tension for those around her. They may feel gratitude, admiration, or even frustration because she affects them deeply, yet she cannot be owned, relied upon, or predicted. Her absence does not create loss in the traditional sense. It creates reflection. People are forced to confront who they have become, what they tolerate, and the illusions they cling to, all while knowing she moved on without a backward glance. What sets her apart is that she makes transformation a personal responsibility. She doesn't hold anyone's hand through growth, but she makes them realize the value of doing it. By living on her own terms, unapologetically and relentlessly pursuing her own path, she models independence and strength without pressure. This is why she is unforgettable. She disrupts patterns, exposes weaknesses, and inspires change, all without creating emotional dependence or leaving chaos behind. In a world full of people who give with strings attached, who nurture for control, or who influence for attention, the Sigma female's subtle, uncompromising independence is revolutionary. She alters perspectives, shifts priorities, and quietly raises the bar for everyone who crosses her path. And the truth is, those who have been touched by her presence carry the lessons forever. The impact lingers, shaping decisions, ambitions, and self-respect. But she herself remains untethered, unclaimed, and impossibly free. That is the paradox that makes her the ultimate plot twist. Number 4. She makes people realize how lazy their minds have become. Sigma females have an unsettling effect on the people around them because they operate on a level of awareness most never bother to reach. She notices patterns, reads between the lines, and sees the consequences of choices before others even recognize the question. She doesn't flaunt this intelligence, but her presence highlights the contrast for everyone else. Conversations with her are deceptively simple, yet they force people to think harder, question deeper, and confront truths they would usually ignore. For those who have grown comfortable with autopilot living, this is both fascinating and terrifying. What makes her influence so powerful is that she doesn't lecture or demand attention. She simply processes the world with precision, and people notice it, sometimes reluctantly. They begin to see their own shortcuts, the mental laziness they have relied on for comfort, and the half-baked decisions they've convinced themselves were smart. Around her, ignorance becomes obvious, and superficial thinking is exposed. It's uncomfortable because no one likes being reminded of the work they haven't done on themselves, yet her clarity makes it impossible to ignore. She doesn't correct people overtly. She doesn't need to. Her questions, comments, or even the way she observes silently can spark the kind of reflection that rattles people for weeks. They start reconsidering how they approach problems, how they communicate, how they understand themselves. They realize they have been coasting, trusting assumptions instead of seeking truth, and tolerating convenience over depth. And here's the subtle brilliance. She does this without ego or competition. She isn't trying to be superior. She simply refuses to engage at a shallow level. Her standard for thinking, understanding, and processing life is naturally higher than most, and anyone in her orbit either elevates to meet it or struggles quietly against it. By the time people truly notice her impact, they often feel both inspired and unsettled. They can't blame her for it. She hasn't pushed them. She has only existed fully in her own reality. She exposes the mental laziness around her not through confrontation, but through living as a catalyst for thought. And that is why encountering a Sigma female feels like a jolt. She doesn't just shift the room, she shifts the mind. Number 5, she redefines loyalty. Not as blind devotion, but as high standards. Sigma females don't treat loyalty as a hollow promise or a tool for manipulation. To them, loyalty isn't about saying yes to everything, staying no matter what, or following someone blindly. Instead, loyalty is measured by integrity, respect, and alignment with principles. She will stand by the people and causes that matter, but she will never sacrifice herself or compromise her values to keep someone else comfortable. This approach to loyalty is quietly radical because it forces people to reconsider what they think loyalty even means. Most are used to measuring loyalty as blind obedience or convenience, but with a Sigma female, that framework simply doesn't work. Her standards are high because she refuses to tolerate hypocrisy, entitlement, or laziness masquerading as commitment. She will invest her energy in relationships, partnerships, or connections only when there is mutual respect, honesty, and purpose. If someone consistently violates those standards, she does not negotiate, guilt trip, or drag out the process. She steps back, calmly and decisively. To outsiders, it may look cold, but it's a form of loyalty that is far deeper than surface-level devotion. It's loyalty to truth, to principle, and ultimately to herself. The impact of this approach is profound. People around her quickly realize that loyalty isn't something to be earned by pandering or performing. It's something that must be respected and reciprocated through genuine character. Her presence exposes shallow alliances and weak bonds, forcing everyone to either rise to her standard or fall away naturally. Unlike others who tolerate betrayal or excuses in the name of staying loyal, she raises the bar for what real loyalty should feel like. Being loyal to a Sigma female requires authenticity, effort, and self-awareness. It's not about clinging, it's about proving that your values and actions align with hers. Those who understand this experience a form of connection that is rare, transformative, and uncompromising. And those who cannot meet her standard are quietly removed, not through confrontation, but because her life simply cannot bend to accommodate disloyalty. She doesn't just redefine loyalty, she embodies it at a level that forces everyone around her to evolve, or face the consequences of being left behind. Number 6. She forces people to face their hidden insecurities. Without speaking, Sigma females have a way of revealing what people try hardest to hide, and they do it without saying a single word. It's not through confrontation, advice, or criticism, but through the sheer clarity of their presence. People around them suddenly become painfully aware of their own cracks, flaws, and self-deceptions. The confident persona, the charming facade, the carefully curated image, everything becomes fragile when reflected against someone who carries quiet assurance and sharp perception. Her calm doesn't invite conversation. It exposes the gaps in thought, emotion, and behavior that most would rather ignore. What makes this so compelling and disorienting is that she doesn't actively point out weaknesses. She doesn't try to shame or manipulate. Instead, her self-possession highlights the contrast between her authenticity and the masks others wear. When people interact with her, they find themselves revealing things they never intended to: hesitations, contradictions, half-truths, even insecurities that have been buried for years. They realize that in her presence, pretense is useless, and their inner vulnerabilities become impossible to hide. This ability makes her a force to be reckoned with because it triggers a level of introspection most people avoid. The realization is sudden and unavoidable. The things they have ignored, rationalized, or hidden for convenience are now glaringly obvious. Some feel shame, others frustration, and a few are motivated to finally confront their weaknesses. Regardless of the reaction, the effect is permanent. People leave the interaction changed, forced to reconcile the truth of who they are versus who they pretend to be. Her silent influence is both brutal and transformative. She doesn't seek to destroy, she seeks authenticity, both in herself and indirectly in others. And that is what makes her a plot twist. She doesn't need drama, manipulation, or words to shift perspectives. She simply exists, and in doing so, forces those around her to confront what they would rather ignore. In her presence, people can't escape themselves, and that quiet reckoning is as unforgettable as it is inevitable. Number 7. She lives with a level of self-respect that others call arrogance. Sigma females carry themselves with a quiet, unwavering self-respect that is both magnetic and unsettling. They don't announce it, they don't seek validation, and they certainly don't tolerate anyone trying to diminish it. To many people, this confidence can appear as arrogance because it challenges the unspoken social rules most live by. Rules that reward humility performed as insecurity or self-doubt, disguised as modesty. She doesn't conform to these rules. She simply exists with a standard for herself that others either admire or resent, and often both at the same time. The effect she has on people is subtle but profound. Those who are used to flattering, manipulating, or testing others find themselves quietly defeated. Their usual strategies fail because she doesn't bend, argue unnecessarily, or seek approval. She doesn't inflate her ego to dominate conversations or relationships. Her presence alone communicates a self-worth that doesn't need external reinforcement. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about being uncompromisingly herself. And in a world where so many people measure value through comparison, her stability feels threatening. Her self-respect is an invisible standard that forces others to confront their own boundaries, or lack thereof. People start realizing how often they've tolerated disrespect, how frequently they've compromised for acceptance, and how easily they've allowed their sense of worth to be dictated by others. Around her, they can't hide behind charm, excuses, or manipulation. They either rise to meet a level of integrity and self-awareness they've ignored, or they quietly fall away, exposing how little they respect themselves. The brilliance of her presence is that it doesn't push or preach. She doesn't demand recognition or obedience. She simply maintains her principles, her standards, and her self-respect, and that alone shifts the dynamic in every room she enters. People notice, react, and often misinterpret it as arrogance, but the truth is far simpler. She values herself and refuses to allow the world to cheapen that. And that quiet, unshakable self-respect is what makes her unforgettable, transformative, and to some, profoundly intimidating. Number 8. She sees exit signs where others see. Dead ends. Sigma females have a unique clarity when it comes to evaluating situations, relationships, and opportunities. While most people get trapped by fear, habit, or the pressure to conform, she has an almost instinctive ability to identify when a path is no longer serving her growth. What looks like a dead end to others, a relationship full of tension, a job with no future, a friendship drained by imbalance, she reads as a clear signal. It's time to move. This perception is not impulsive or dramatic. It's rooted in an unwavering awareness of her values and priorities. She doesn't wait for things to collapse or for problems to force her hand. She acts before stagnation becomes permanent. The way she navigates exits is what makes her extraordinary. She doesn't dramatize leaving, beg for understanding, or create conflict. She simply steps away with quiet precision, leaving behind the chaos or discomfort that others often cling to. People around her are often shocked, confused, or resentful, not because she hurt them intentionally, but because they didn't see the cracks themselves. Her departure exposes truths that were ignored, masked, or rationalized away. Those who remain often realize that they misread loyalty, trust, or potential because she saw the reality clearly from the start. Her ability to recognize exit signs also sets a high standard for personal accountability. She doesn't linger out of guilt, obligation, or societal pressure. She doesn't tie her presence to someone else's sense of worth. Instead, she shows that leaving is not failure. It's clarity and self-respect in action. Her decisiveness forces people to confront their own attachment to comfort zones, illusions, or toxic cycles. By consistently choosing paths that align with her growth, she reshapes the lives of those around her. Some are inspired to follow her example, while others are left to grapple with the consequences of ignoring their own signals. She demonstrates that the most powerful moves are not always forward. They're the ones that remove you from what no longer serves you. In a world where most people cling to false stability, she is the quiet, unstoppable force that sees the exits and takes them unapologetically. Number 9. She doesn't chase love or approval. She attracts confessions. Sigma females have a magnetic effect on people that isn't loud or performative. They don't pursue attention, approval, or validation, yet people naturally gravitate toward them and almost unconsciously reveal things they would never admit to others. It isn't manipulation, strategy, or seduction. It's the way she exists with authenticity and clarity. Her presence creates a space where pretenses drop and the truth slips out. Often before anyone even realizes it, people start revealing secrets, doubts, insecurities, and even hidden desires, because her energy makes honesty unavoidable. What's extraordinary is that she doesn't force these confessions or exploit them. She doesn't ask, prod, or try to make people vulnerable. She simply maintains her own integrity, which in turn disarms the people around her. When someone feels compelled to confess to her, it's not because they are weak. It's because they sense that dishonesty or pretense will never hold up in her presence. Her authenticity acts like a mirror, reflecting back the truth that most are too afraid to acknowledge themselves. And it isn't just personal secrets. People reveal their intentions, their failures, and even the parts of themselves they've hidden behind charm or bravado. This is why she's a plot twist. People walk into her world thinking they understand the dynamics. Then they find themselves spilling truths they never planned to share, confronting feelings they buried, and seeing themselves more clearly than ever before. It's unsettling, transformative, and unforgettable. She also maintains a boundary that protects her own energy. While she attracts confessions, she doesn't absorb them in a way that creates dependency. People are free to speak, to reveal, and to reflect, but she remains grounded and unaffected by their chaos. Her ability to draw out honesty without losing herself demonstrates a level of emotional mastery that most people can't comprehend. In essence, a Sigma female doesn't chase connection. She simply radiates authenticity, and in that authenticity, people expose themselves. Her influence is subtle but absolute, a silent force that forces reflection, accountability, and honesty. That is why her presence is unforgettable, disruptive, and transformative all at once. Number 10. She turns power dynamics upside down by not wanting what others want. Sigma females have a way of unsettling people simply by refusing to play the game everyone else is obsessed with. While most people chase approval, status, attention, or validation, she doesn't. She doesn't compete for recognition, argue for dominance, or crave the spotlight. And that refusal is more powerful than any argument or manipulation. People around her instinctively assume she wants what they want, only to realize she doesn't. And that realization is disarming. It flips expectations, rewrites social hierarchies, and exposes how much of human interaction is driven by shallow desires and ego-driven competition. Her indifference to conventional rewards doesn't make her passive. On the contrary, she operates with a quiet authority, making decisions and setting boundaries that are entirely her own. People notice it immediately because her actions reveal a different kind of power, one that isn't dependent on forcing others to obey or impressing anyone. Her independence makes the traditional rules of influence irrelevant. She doesn't seek followers or approval, yet she commands respect simply by refusing to conform to everyone else's agenda. This nonchalance becomes a mirror for those around her, forcing them to question why they are so obsessed with what she doesn't even care about. This inversion of power dynamics creates confusion, fascination, and sometimes frustration. People realize that their attempts to manipulate, impress, or control her are useless, and in the process, they become aware of how much of their energy they waste chasing validation. Her presence forces them to confront the fact that most social games are meaningless and that true influence comes from self-possession, principle, and emotional independence. She doesn't teach this lesson outright. She doesn't point out flaws or criticize. She simply exists with a standard that cannot be negotiated, and in doing so, she subtly rewires expectations. People either rise to meet her level or quietly fall away, but either way, her impact is undeniable. By not wanting what everyone else wants, she rewrites the rules, demonstrates a different kind of strength, and leaves a lasting impression that makes her an unpredictable, unforgettable force in any room she enters. Number 11. Her emotional discipline confuses people who are used to chaos. Sigma females have an emotional stability that feels almost unnatural to those around them, and it creates a subtle but undeniable tension. While most people react impulsively, overthink, or get caught up in drama, she maintains a steady presence. Her emotions are controlled, deliberate, and precise, not because she is cold or detached, but because she understands the power of clarity and timing. For people accustomed to emotional turbulence, friends who vent, lovers who panic, colleagues who overreact, her calm becomes a mirror they cannot interpret. They expect chaos to meet chaos, yet she remains unaffected, and that confuses them. Her discipline is not about suppressing feelings or pretending everything is fine. She feels deeply, but she chooses how and when to express it. This selective expression throws people off balance because they are used to reading emotions like a predictable pattern. Around her, you can't manipulate her through guilt, panic, or exaggeration, and people quickly realize that their usual strategies for influence don't work. She sets the tone emotionally without raising her voice, demanding attention, or asserting control. The quiet steadiness of her presence becomes a subtle kind of authority, and people instinctively adjust their behavior to match it, even when they resist consciously. This emotional mastery also forces others to confront their own instability. When someone prone to overreaction or insecurity tries to provoke a response, they are met with composure that exposes their own unnecessary chaos. They begin to notice how much energy they waste reacting, how often they allow emotions to dictate actions, and how shallow their responses have been compared to her deliberate calm. What makes her a true plot twist is that she doesn't seek to teach a lesson or prove superiority. Her discipline exists for her benefit and her peace, not for control. Yet the effect on others is transformative. People leave her presence unsettled, thoughtful, and often quietly inspired to examine their own emotional habits. Her control isn't loud or flashy, but it rewrites the emotional landscape around her, and that makes her unforgettable, disruptive, and quietly dominant. Number 12. She's the only person. Some people can't predict. Sigma females have a way of keeping people on edge, not through drama or theatrics, but simply by being themselves. They don't follow predictable patterns or conform to societal expectations, and that unpredictability is disarming. While most people operate on routines, habits, or social scripts, she makes decisions based on principles, intuition, and personal alignment, rather than what others expect. To someone used to control, manipulation, or even simple assumptions, she is a puzzle they can't solve, a variable they can't anticipate, and that makes her presence both fascinating and unsettling. Her unpredictability isn't reckless or careless. It comes from self-possession and clarity of purpose. She doesn't change for attention, chaos, or to test people. She changes because her life, growth, and integrity demand it. That makes her movements, choices, and even silences hard to read. People around her often overthink her actions, trying to predict what she will say, do, or feel next. Yet no pattern emerges because she isn't performing for anyone, and that freedom from expectation is disorienting for those who rely on control or predictability to feel secure. This makes her influence subtle but powerful. She forces people to confront the limits of their understanding, to question their assumptions, and to consider perspectives they would usually ignore. Her presence exposes overconfidence, weak strategies, and reliance on habits that only work in predictable environments. People leave interactions with her feeling both intrigued and challenged, often unsure of how she thinks or why she acts the way she does. The brilliance of her unpredictability is that it's not manipulative, it's natural. She doesn't play games to confuse others. Her life simply doesn't fit into conventional scripts, and that's what makes her unforgettable. Some admire her independence, some feel frustrated by their inability to anticipate her, and all are affected because she forces them out of their comfort zones without saying a word. She's a living contradiction to predictability, and that is why she becomes the plot twist in people's lives. Her presence isn't something to control. It's something that reshapes perspectives, silently yet irrevocably. Sigma females are not just people you meet. They are forces that rearrange the world around them. They don't yell, they don't demand, and they don't follow scripts. Yet their presence is seismic, shifting dynamics, exposing illusions and forcing introspection in ways most people can't anticipate. They are the quiet disruptions, the invisible catalysts, the unspoken challenges that leave everyone around them questioning, reflecting, and ultimately evolving. Every interaction with a Sigma female is like holding a mirror up to yourself, one that refuses to lie, sugarcoat, or settle for mediocrity. And in that reflection, you either grow, adapt, and rise, or you fall away quietly, often without even realizing the impact she had. What makes them extraordinary is that they leave a mark without seeking credit. They transform without controlling, and they challenge without hostility. They show that influence doesn't need noise, power doesn't need aggression, and loyalty doesn't need subservience. They are living proof that strength, clarity, and integrity are more compelling than charm, persuasion, or authority. They are the rare kind of presence that lingers long after they've moved on, shaping decisions, altering perspectives, and quietly redefining what it means to live authentically. If you felt unsettled, inspired, or challenged by the presence of someone like this, now you understand why. Sigma females are not anomalies. They are reality checks, hidden architects, and subtle game changers in a world that often settles for mediocrity. Their lives are a testament to the power of living unbound, unbothered, and unapologetically true to oneself. If this breakdown resonated with you, hit that subscribe button to uncover more hidden truths about personalities that disrupt, challenge, and transform. Don't just watch. Comment your thoughts, share your experiences, and join a community that refuses to settle for the ordinary. The world is full of Sigma energy waiting to be understood, and together we're going to explore it all.